So how did you build your own sort of confidence in yourself as a leader?
Whew, that's a really good question. I'm probably always working on it.
Mm-hmm.
But I certainly draw upon my experience as a performer,
Mm-hmm.
where it takes and being an athlete. So I was on the varsity basketball team in high school, and I would start some of the time, and some of the time came off the bench or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember going to one of these intensive summer basketball camps, and someone talked about what gave them confidence when they were going to be on that free throw line with the game on the line with no time on the clock.
Yeah.
And he said, what gives me confidence is knowing that yesterday I was on that free throw line 100 times and I made 95 of them.
Mm-hmm.
That's what gave me confidence. It was the purposeful, good practice.
Right.
So it's not just practice makes perfect. It's good practice makes perfect. Like, it's purposeful, meaningful practice where you're trying to get better, not just run through the motions.
Right.
So I think about that from, athletics. In music, I didn't, win an audition unless I practiced a ton. And so those are the types of things that I think can start to give you confidence. I couldn't perform live in front of an audience unless I had really practiced and felt
Yeah.
really confident, that I got this. So that when I had that, stuttering moment, I'm like, oh, I know this. I'm good. Let me keep going.
My next guest is Andrew Goldberg of Andrew Goldberg Consulting. Andrew spent half of his 25-year career in the arts and entertainment world for nonprofits as the Vice President of Marketing for the Arsht Center in Miami. He has now branched off and started his own firm, Andrew Goldberg Consulting, while seeking an executive position for a company where he can harness his leadership skills that he's developed over the years. Andrew has some amazing nuggets to share on leadership, confidence, and his vision for the arts and entertainment world in this pandemic. Welcome, Andrew Goldberg.
Sure. My name is Andrew Goldberg. Thank you for having me here. For a little over 12 years, I was a vice president of marketing at the Arsht Center, which is part of my more than 25-year career in the nonprofit performing arts. It was certainly my longest tenure with an organization, where I came on board at the tail end of the first year of operation for the largest performing arts institution in South Florida. At the time, it was like a startup organization in many ways, and we had to really establish policies and procedures, team structure, and strategies, put in strategic plans, annual operational plans, really determine who our target audiences were, build a database. There were all sorts of things that we had to do at the beginning because we were a very new organization. And today, the brand of the company is really tremendous. It is nationally recognized, internationally recognized, and is really, went from a place where I think many people in the community weren't sure why it was being built, to a point today where I think that I like to believe that most people in the community are, see it as a vital part of the fabric of Miami.
Absolutely, because the Sears building was there before, right?
Right, the Sears building and Sears Roebuck, they donated that land, and it was determined that the tower itself, which is art, an Art Deco tower, needed to stay as part of the new building that was going to be built, there. And then I left the Arsht Center in October. Speaking of leadership and arguably bold decisions,
audacious decisions.
Yes, audacious, and exactly. I wanted to make a break from my marketing career and try to more establish myself as someone who is worthy of executive leadership. as an executive director, a CEO, a president of a nonprofit organization. And I wanted to change the brand of who I was,
Nice.
by doing that. And of course, then COVID happened, and it's certainly taken longer than I'd like. But in the meantime, I opened a consultancy, Andrew Goldberg Consulting, a very original name, and
that is brilliant branding, by the way. Who
y-
else is going to be Andrew Goldberg Consulting?
Exactly. And then I've had several clients since, and of course COVID has hit the arts sector very hard, and so some of those clients who I was working with had to put some of the work on pause.
Yeah.
Hopefully they'll come back, but I'm also in the midst of really looking for the right leadership position as well. So that's sort of, I'm on a couple tracks right now, is working with clients as well as looking for that right opportunity.
Excellent. Speaking of the right opportunity, when talking about leadership, what is your philosophy or your leadership style that you would say that you've developed?
Well, I would tell you this, my leadership style has changed over time. And
changed or evolved?
I mean, evolved, sure, over time. And, it's certainly, post Arsht Center, as I've, thought about, leadership in a different way. I think about, how I would draw upon, maybe what I liked about the way I led, maybe what I didn't like, and try to, take the best of, and, and really try to, lead in a new and refreshing way. I think that one of the number one things I feel I've learned over time is the notion of servant leadership.
Right.
In the idea of, you're leading a team and they may technically work for you. Really, you need to be working for them and with them. Treat them like partners, in solving their issues. Yeah. So if you are in an executive leadership position, the people that are reporting to you tend to be, more seasoned, veterans, and they know what they're doing. They're very smart, and the last thing they need is for someone to come in and tell them what to do. Right.
Right.
They're going to have, a lot of their own great ideas. And so I believe in, really them and figuring out how to help them accomplish what they want to do, understanding that it will fit in with the vision and the mission and the top line goals of the organization.
Right.
Of course, if something doesn't, well, then you have that conversation too. But presumably it does. And it's really about trying to find ways to support, what they're trying to accomplish, which is all for the good of the company.
Absolutely. And I love that philosophy. So take me back a little bit to how you came up with all this great wisdom for leadership, maybe some of the pitfalls, or just one, if you've made some really big mistakes as a leader and had to learn from that as you evolved.
Sure. When I first started out in the industry, I was entry level, right? And then at a certain point, I'm managing someone. And in the nonprofit world in particular, these are usually smaller organizations. And this is not a knock against any organization. There's not, when you're put into a managerial role, oftentimes it comes without managerial training.
Yes.
Right. So and that was me. I was thrown into this, and you try to use your best instincts. You think you're doing the right thing. But I think that the number one thing that I learned that I needed to do over the course of the career, and I'm still, look, if anyone tells you I'm a great manager, they're probably not that great. Okay. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm great. And that's not a reverse, psychology thing to tell you that I think I'm great. Okay. Either. Okay. I think that what's healthy, a healthy mindset is to say that you're always working on it. Because if the moment you say you're not, I think is the moment that you, or that you not just say that you're not, but that you aren't,
or
is the moment that you, yeah, then you're not a good manager anymore. And so we'll always have to work on it as you know, because it's like, you know, if you're in a marriage, you know, you can't just say, well, we're married, good, I don't need to work at it anymore. You need to keep working at it, right?
Right.
And these are
Because you stop
relationships.
growing. You no longer feel the need to grow, and you're no longer seeking growth of how I can do this better. How can I? Because truthfully, as a manager, you don't know what scenario is going to come your way day by day. You really don't. You
You
kind of
don't.
hope to navigate smoothly through the waters, but something might be thrown at you that you don't expect coming at you.
Absolutely. And you know, to put yourself in the shoes of the person that's reporting to you, I think is a really important thing to do. And to understand you don't know what else is going on in their world. There may be something, you know, really, you know, challenging going on
Hmm.
in their personal life.
Especially
And
now that COVID has hit, and
yeah,
people are dealing with all kinds of stuff that's
I mean,
coming up for them.
I have to tell you, you know, when I talk to people, just in general these days, I'm coming at it with a, you know, a ton of, you know, compassion,
Hmm.
in the sense that I'm almost assuming that people I'm talking to must know somebody who has either suffered from or has sadly passed away from
Hmm.
COVID.
Yeah,
I
it's
know people myself, you know, who have suffered or have passed away, and you know, but you know, people bring this, you know, to the workplace. You know, everyone's human,
because you're not a
and
robot, right? You're not just something
yeah,
you can shut it off and shut it on and stuff. Um,
exactly. So you know, what I feel like I learned over time is, you know, you need to be compassionate, you know, and put yourself in someone else's shoes. You just don't know what has been going what happened that morning for them.
right.
You know, that might have been, you know, they might have gotten some really bad news of some sort, you know, personally in their family. You just don't know. But to listen. And I think that
Listening
that's
is
probably the
huge.
hardest thing for someone who's, you know, for some people, you know, and, you know, the more you can listen to people's advice that are working for you and with you, and to know that there's more than one way to success,
Yeah.
and you know, allowing people to, you know, make those choices. Now the good thing that comes along with experience, I believe, is that you recognize that there's more than one way to success, and it doesn't have to be your way, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
so you know, I've let people, you know, in on countless, you know, projects, do things the way they want. You know, it's
And
like give them
I think
autonomy.
that's one of the biggest hurdles that I've seen for some people to do is to
Right.
allow people the freedom, because the work I do with talent optimization is to really allow people the freedom to use their strengths and their talents to arrive at the end result. This is the goal. It doesn't matter if you come up the hill this way or that way, get up the
Mhm.
hill. Right. And there are some people that, nope, this
Sure.
is how we do it. This is how it's been done. And
Right.
it creates that conflict and that tension and stress in the environment. Because there's a statistic, I think is it 67% of people leave because of bad managers? They leave a good job because
Yeah.
of bad managers.
And I'll say, you know, look, I've been guilty of that, you know, earlier in my career too. And I will say that there are many things where there is a way that things have been done.
Hmm.
And, you know, what I want, you know, someone on the team to know is why it's been done that way, and what the pitfalls that have happened, you know,
Trying it
along the
another
way to get there that I've already gone through,
right.
you know, so that, you know, I can help them avoid some of the same mistakes that I made, you know, when they're, you
Absolutely.
know, planning a project. Now that doesn't mean you have to do it specifically this way, but um, maybe the first time you do it the way it's been done, you'll learn it. You just, you know, then you can say, oh wait, okay, I've tried that on, right?
Hmm.
The way
I
it's
think
been
there's
done.
another way that I can do this. It'll be faster,
Yeah.
more efficient.
And then you can come back and say, hey, I saw how this worked. Understand why this might have been a way of the past, but I've got a new way. And let me tell you why I think it's going to be different
Hmm.
or better, or what I want to test. And when someone has done that thought process, and can articulate it, to me, that's a great employee. Now,
Yeah.
if someone just says, I'm not going to pay attention and I'm just going to do my own thing because whatever, that's different.
Yeah.
That's
That's,
taking
yeah.
autonomy to a different, end.
Right.
In my humble opinion.
No, that's true, because then not just have they tried, and by you putting it in context of why we do it this way, they're now you're empowering them instead of just, it's like parenting almost as well.
I
You
suppose, yeah.
want to empower your children to do things in a way that brings them success, and not say you have to do it my way all the time. But there are things that, through trial and error, you've done, and you say, nope, this is what works best. If you come up with a better way, share it with me. I'd be happy to know. But it's all leadership as well, to me, is about empowering your direct reports, empowering the people that you lead to success. So,
Absolutely. And I'll bring a great analogy, in the arts world. I mean, if you're a dancer or you are a musician, oftentimes especially if you're classically trained, you learn, proper technique, right?
mhm,
But then you can go off and go start a rock band,
right.
and write your own songs and create new rules. But your
You have
foundation
to follow the foundation. Absolutely.
was learning that skill set, and that experience set from others. And that's probably the best analogy I can give, is when I'll share, like, here's a structure for a particular kind of campaign. Let's follow this your first year, your first cycle. Let's really nail it. And then the second time around, if it really wasn't followed greatly the first time, well, let's try it again. And then, make some tweaks this next time.
Mhm.
What ideas do you have?
So, how did you build your own sort of confidence in yourself as a leader?
Whew, that's a really good question. I'm probably always working on it.
Mhm.
But I certainly draw upon my experience as a performer,
Mhm.
where it takes, and being an athlete. So I was on the varsity basketball team in high school, and I would start some of the time, and some of the time came off the bench or whatever.
Mhm.
But I remember going to one of these intensive summer basketball camps, and someone talked about what gave them confidence when they were going to be on that free throw line with the game on the line with no time on the clock.
Yeah.
And he said, what gives me confidence is knowing that yesterday I was on that free throw line 100 times and I made 95 of them.
Mhm.
That's what gave me confidence. It was the purposeful, good practice.
Right.
So it's not just practice makes perfect. It's good practice makes perfect. Like, it's purposeful, meaningful practice where you're trying to get better, not just run through the motions.
Right.
So I think about that from, athletics. In music, I didn't, win an audition unless I practiced a ton. And so those are the types of things that I think can start to give you confidence. I couldn't perform live in front of an audience unless I
Mhm.
had really practiced and felt
Yeah.
really confident, that I got this. So that when I have that, stuttering moment, I'm like, oh, I know this. I'm good. Let me keep going. You know, so I think ultimately, I I guess maybe a plug for team sports, a plug for music, but for kids and growing up and having extracurricular activities. I mean, I learned so much beyond the having a musical language, and
Mhm.
being having exercise in my life and all that sort of thing. I learned these other attributes, that gave me, for me, gave me confidence. Like, oh, I can transfer these skills elsewhere. It's about
Right.
knowledge base and practice.
Yeah, I have the 7 steps to audacious confidence that I have for myself. And one
Mm,
of them is your spiritual tags, your talents, your assets, your gifts, and your skills. And I always tell people you have to catalog those things, because even if you learned it in one area, you have to know how to transfer it into something else. If you know what
yeah.
skill set you have, if you know what those things are for you,
Hmm.
then you can pull it out of your bag, even if you're in a situation that is new to you. You can
Yeah.
say, oh, just like with the basketball, oh, I can do this because when I was here, I did that and it worked. So I'm just going to apply that same principle over here. So
Yeah,
yeah, I love that.
absolutely. Absolutely. And, kind of drawing back upon, the whole like team sports and, I was in choir, which is, like a team, team activity is, that was also a big part of it for me in the professional life as well, is that, especially when I became a manager and I had teams, you can't do everything yourself. It's not possible. And
Yeah.
so, I have to say humbly that, any successes that I've been fortunate enough to be a part of is really because of the teams that I've been a part of. And,
That's great.
I've had really good people that work for me that it probably gave me a lot of slack and, and leeway, you
Hmm.
know, to figure out how to manage,
Nice.
you know, um, so I'm grateful to them too, because I'm sure, that there are some folks, certainly earlier in the career, and I'm sure even later in the career, it's sometimes it's a personality match, and all that, but ultimately, it is a two-way street.
Yeah. So what was it like being a kid for you? What were you like? Were you a confident kid? Were you a shy kid? Were you?
I was a very shy kid,
Hmm.
very shy.
Is that why you got into sports? And
Um, that's a good question. I got into sports and music and all that because my dad in particular, he was into everything. He really wanted to attend, events.
hmm.
So, whether it was, a sporting event or the opera or the symphony, or a Broadway musical. I mean, he just wanted to go to things.
Nice.
And he was also very athletic as well. So, I just enjoyed these things. I before I got into music, I used to draw all the time. I mean, my sort of identity as a kid growing up was as the kid who could draw.
Nice.
I remember when I was in junior high, I was going for to try out for the basketball team, and I remember one of the kids, said, "You're going to try out? You think you're going to make it?" And I just had to look at him and said,
Mhm.
"Yeah, I'm going to try." And maybe I got on because I was tall.
Mhm.
I was one of the taller ones. But by senior year, I was one of like only two kids, in my whole class that were on the basketball team. So,
Awesome.
it's just, I just put my heart into it. It was about practice. But growing up as a kid, I was very shy. I had my circle of friends, um, but, I, I didn't go out on any dates or anything like that. I was too shy, to ask anyone out. Um, that didn't happen until college, but, uh,
And look at you now.
loved the sport, loved music. All my friends were mostly in chorus. That's where the majority of my friends were.
Wow. So would you have thought, looking at your childhood as a child, that you would be where you are today in your life? Would you have thought, I'm this amazing leader, I've done all these great things? Would you have seen that for yourself?
Um, well, I appreciate you saying that. First of all, you're very kind, and I again, I want to say that I think that I've been fortunate enough to be a part of some great teams, and maybe I've just been lucky.
Hmm.
Maybe I've just been in the right place at the right time with the right people, and maybe that's what it's been. But
Yeah.
as a kid, I remember I couldn't think past the year 2000. You know, I thought that by the year 2000, I was going to be old. Like there were going to be lots of things in
Electric,
place for me.
yeah,
But I
the
really didn't.
Jetsons age.
I really didn't know what I was going to do as a career. I had no idea. I remember being in high school and being jealous of all the classmates who said, "I'm going to be pre-med. I'm going to be
Hmm.
go to the school at this college." And so thinking, how do you know? Like, I don't know. How do you know? And it really wasn't until I was a junior in high school or in college, and it just kind of clicked for me. I'd been working several summers at a place called the Ravinia Festival
Hmm.
in the Chicago area, which is a summer home of the Chicago Symphony Orchestra, and they've got an indoor pavilion that seats about 3,000 and a lawn that seats about 20,000.
Hmm.
It's actually the biggest, as it turns out, it's the biggest summer music festival in the country that includes classical music. And I had worked there several summers back to high school, where I was an usher, and then I was a backstage production assistant. And I just thought, I want to run a place like this one day.
Wow.
Now I don't know how to get there, but so when I graduated, there was a job that was open. Shortly after I graduated, it was in marketing. It could have been in any of the departments. It could have been in fundraising. It could have been in artistic planning, arts education. It could have been any of these things, but it happened to be marketing. I interviewed, and I got the job, and I just worked hard from there. But I had never taken a business class or a marketing class before that.
And that's great. On the job training.
Absolutely.
OJT, don't ever despise on the job training, because it's very valuable. I do want to ask, because you're a new dad, you're a brand new dad, and do you want to tell us a little bit about and then the other question I did want to ask you was about what you see for the arts industry now, because it's taken a really big hit. But tell me about your kids.
Well, they're very small.
Yeah.
They're just over 3 months now, and we feel very blessed to have them. We got twin boys. We'd been wanting to have children for some time, and really grateful that we were blessed for them to actually happen. It's been really interesting during this time, during 2020, during the COVID situation. We've been able to spend some really good quality time. And by the time maybe things open up a bit more in the country, and there's more opportunity for the arts community to reopen, we'll be in even more of a routine of sorts. But we're already getting there, which is really nice. In terms of just sleep and able to have some semblance of a normal work day. So that
do you think
really
you would have been a
for
different dad if you weren't sequestered at home?
It would certainly have been a different kind of stress, that's for sure. Because I probably would have wanted to really be home more often than I would maybe be able to be. So yeah, I mean, a different kind of dad. I'm not sure how to answer that exactly.
Because this is the reality that you are right now. It's like we had that conversation before about twins and having one child versus two, and you said, this is all I know, so I don't have any other point of reference.
That's right.
So
that's right.
You don't have another point of reference of being a dad outside of this situation. So yeah, it's a kind of an unfair question.
No, it's all right. I think that it's also perspective. Not that they'll have a clear perspective on how dad was in their first 3 months of life, but
yeah, they won't know.
But it's been really good for us to be able to spend this quality time with them, at this moment, and know that it's considered very acceptable to be at home and do work remotely.
Yeah. How is leadership through a crisis? How do you see leadership through crisis?
My view on leadership through crisis is, as number one, is to not forget that you're not doing this alone. You're doing this with others, and to not be afraid to have a difficult conversation. Not be afraid to talk about difficult facts, that may, be in place. And to, again, listen to your team. They're thinking about how to, presumably, the best interests of the company, whatever, your company is, and you should listen to them and think through how to be, a thoughtful leader in considering all the advice that you'll be getting.
Do you think there needs to be more transparency when there's a crisis?
I think that, there needs to be measured transparency. And when I say that, yes. So let's, let's take the arts as an example. You have an organization, many organizations are having, really significant layoffs and furloughs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And these are really, really difficult conversations to have. And it's really challenging for me to hear about, colleagues of mine who are having to deal with this.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a financial reality at a certain point where you have to, look at the numbers and say, if we don't do this, we will have to cease all operations.
Yeah.
I mean, those are
Which
the
we don't want
types of
that to happen.
scenarios that start to become the choices,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't start making other choices.
Yeah, difficult
So
choices.
I think that, letting a team know that, yes, look, there are some tough choices coming up. You also don't want to, I believe in a safe environment, and it's hard to do that when you're trying to be transparent sometimes too, because if you say to your entire team, there are going to be layoffs and furloughs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Everybody's
that
freaked
sounds
out.
scary, right?
Everybody's freaked out.
So, at what point do you, when I say measure transparency, I think that there's a right time to lead, when you have a plan in place. It's irresponsible to just throw out loud, oh, I think there might be some layoffs,
Mm-hmm.
As a leader, because maybe there won't be. I mean, you just have to talk to your leaders,
Right.
in the organization, and say, what are our options? What do we need to throw on the table? And let's come up with a thoughtful way of moving forward. And then let's be very sensitive and very respectful to know that, these are people's livelihoods. And not only are we talking about affecting an individual, but we're talking about affecting their families too.
Yeah.
So we have to be very, very careful about this, the way we go about it. And I think that there's been, a lot of good, sensitive communication with colleague organizations, given this moment in time.
Mm-hmm.
And, yes, there have been some furloughs, but at the same time, a lot of organizations are keeping the health benefits alive.
Yeah.
So doing things like that to say, look, we care about you. We're not going to just throw you out there,
Right.
Entirely. Now, in some cases, maybe you can't do that, but, to try to find, really, thoughtful ways to, share with someone, look, this is a tough situation. We don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't like this. This is why we're doing this. This is how it's going to affect you. This is what we want to do for you to help you land on your feet, because hopefully we can reopen our doors and you're back with us immediately. But if not, as an individual, we really want to see you land well.
Yeah. That's a great answer. Where do you see, or hopefully, what do you see for the arts community moving forward, even if this sort of reality stays this way for another year or two, where we can't congregate in large crowds? And
I think that there's a few things, and there's sort of like a wish list of what I'd like to see,
mm-hmm.
And then there's probably a few things that, I think are likely to happen. Well, first, and some are, and both in some ways are just unknown. So I clearly don't have a crystal ball.
Exactly.
Most people don't. But I would say this is that I do believe that arts organizations will continue to test things. They will try things out. They will get better and better at the live streaming concept, or the live recorded,
right,
concept, and trying to get better at producing digital content. So, the marketing and digital marketing teams in all these arts organizations are busier than they've ever been before, because now all these organizations are saying, well, our only interaction with the public is online. And
right
so
now, yeah.
we need to figure this out. Some organizations are trying some things and then they're going away because they're not really working. They're not getting good engagement. And the tough thing for a lot of live performing arts organizations is the notion that your main brand association with that organization is attending something live. So when you take that away, you start to ask, well, who are you as an organization? Are you going to simply, I say simply, it's not so simple, produce what you would normally do live, but make it digital?
Yeah.
And now that we're in a world where people are on Zoom and Skype and Microsoft Teams all day for
Yeah.
work, do they really want to sit in front of
Of
a,
another screen.
another screen, for entertainment?
Hmm.
um, which I think makes, the big screen TVs even that much more enjoyable, because it feels like it's different. Now you're sitting on a couch, right?
Yeah.
So what would be on my wish list is that an Apple or a Sony, one of these big sort of digital entertainment, companies, um, develops or I should say probably further develops um, home entertainment in 3D, so that there can be a live performance. It
Hmm.
is captured live, and it
Right.
can be streamed, and you can right size it for whatever stage at home you want to give it.
Hmm.
So if you want to have it on your desk right here, then this is the size. And whatever cameras need to be created and used, create this 3D holographic live performance of what you are
Whatever
paying
the, yeah.
to see, right? And if you want to make them big, you can right size it, make them bigger. If you want to have them be, sit on your couch and have them be like the size of your,
Your living
half of
room
your living
space.
room,
So, yeah.
and have it be like real life size, great. And as if, your favorite performer is just inches away from you and you can see in their eyes. I mean, I like to believe that something like that's going to happen. And it may not be next year,
Yeah.
but at some point, I believe that's going to happen. There's many people who are saying, woe is me. This is terrible. I have to do all my entertainment at home. Let's not forget that there are lots of physically disabled individuals in this country that this is their life.
This has been their reality.
This has been their reality.
Hmm.
And, they're saying, well, welcome to our world when it comes to entertainment.
Yeah.
And obviously we don't know exactly what it's like, to live in, in their shoes, but how great will it be for this innovation also for, the physically disabled
Hmm.
who are unable to travel, or
Yeah.
the elderly, that
Yeah.
it's very hard for them to travel,
And they
and they
still
can
want to
have
have
these.
that same experience.
Yeah. So these are
Yeah.
exciting things for me. How great would it be to have this access,
Yeah.
and and these great experiences for those who might not know to
No,
access. And that's an important part of the arts, is making sure that the arts are accessible to all.
I think this is such a great time for innovation that we're seeing it already. That people are being, and the time of innovation is collapsing. So things are coming out and being produced at a rapid rate
Mhm.
than before. I think it was the president of Pfizer that said that they're going to be doing things in ways that it would have taken them 18 months to get done. They need to get it done in 6 weeks. Like they have
Mhm.
collapsed the time of development for something to crazy numbers. And
Yeah.
I think it's an exciting time that we're living in, despite the devastation of it. But it's giving people an opportunity to really stretch and grow.
Yeah.
So the last
Absolutely.
thing I do want to ask, since you're not just because you're a new dad, but I do want to get people's input, regardless if they have grown children or young children. But what would be your greatest leadership and confidence tip, best advice for your children to become great leaders and to develop solid confidence?
Well, I mean, I say this humbly because, I can't, say about myself that I think I'm a great leader. Um, you know, um, I'm trying, right?
Hmm.
We're all trying
Work
all the
in
time,
progress.
and
We're all workers
yeah,
in
we're
progress.
always learning. And you're always trying to get there, right? And so you read blogs, you read inspirational books, you try to take something out of it, and you try, and you make mistakes, and then you learn from them. But if you're human and you admit your mistakes, I think that that's also good. And part of that, if there's something at the heart, if I was trying to instill something in my children over a lifetime, it would be, number one is to work hard, and maybe work harder than someone else. There's always someone else that's out there that's willing to work harder than you. Be that person.
Hmm.
It's not about what people see, it's about what you know. So it's not about people seeing you work hard, it's about you knowing that you worked hard, You did it privately in your own room. You read the books. You practiced a skill set. You know, if it's in sports, you went to the gym when no one was around and you practiced your skills because you were challenging yourself. So I think that, just working hard and practicing, gives you, confidence. And then once you get there, is to be, humble about it, and say, let's say that you are proficient and good at something, is, recognize that you also don't know everything. You never will. And you need to rely on other people who also know things. I think about, it's very recent, for me is, watching the documentary series on The Last Dance.
Michael Jordan. Yep.
Yeah. Exactly.
As you were saying that, that's what I was thinking about. Michael Jordan.
And, I grew up in the Chicago area, and, he was, everywhere. He was omnipresent. And, you didn't know how hard he worked, other than you would presume that he did. You never saw him really practice, but you presumed that he did. And he was much better than everyone else, right? And, and not everyone may agree with that, but being from Chicago, it's true. And then, there's this great quote where, he was interviewed after one of the championships and says, they said, so would you consider yourself the greatest player of all time? And you know what he said? And this is, again, it goes back to the humble. And I'm not trying to compare myself to Michael Jordan by any means. I'm just saying, just in terms of, leadership, is he said, it would be unfair to say that I'm the greatest of all time, because we all played in different eras. I didn't have a chance to play against Wilt Chamberlain, or, Oscar Robertson, or, he did, some against Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, but not in his prime, and so he just said, it would be an unfair comparison. They're just different eras, if someone else says I am, maybe it's true, but that's it, and so, he was never going to come out and say, I'm the greatest of all time.
He's not Muhammad Ali.
And, look, that was part of the show, right?
I know, that was part, It was part of the entertainment factor. That was part of the confidence, of Muhammad Ali. So, well, I really, really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us today and give us your perspective on leading with audacious confidence. So any last words that you might have?
No, I'm really grateful, for the time to just have this conversation talking about leadership. I guess what I would say in regards to leadership is that leadership is not just about the head of the organization. It's also not just about the head of the department. Everyone can lead by example, and just the way in which they behave in the workplace. You can be the gossip person, or you cannot be the gossip person. You can choose to participate in that, and as an entry-level person, by not participating, that's leadership. And so I just don't want, anyone who's, maybe doesn't think that they're ready for it. Everyone's never ready for it, and they are ready for it, right? And it's just about a choice. Are you ready to lead? If you want to make a choice, start tomorrow. Start leading by just doing some things that you just think are the right way to behave as someone in the workplace.
Thank you so much, Andrew. And we look forward to another episode of Leading with Audacious Confidence with our next guest. And we'll see you next time. Audacious confidence is the unshakable belief in yourself that's so brave and so bold that you step into what's possible for yourself, despite your feelings, fears, or failures. I encourage you to follow, subscribe, like, and share this out with your friends. To learn more about our guests, check out some additional episodes. Go to aliciacouri.com/leading with audacious confidence. Until next time, this is Alicia Couri saying, live your life bold, brave, and step out with audacious confidence. Till next time.